Hello, my name is Aaron Lane and I will be going over holding procedures for you. I'll give you about 5 minutes of your time and I'll try to go over this as quick as possible. Are you ready? Go. Alright, 5 minutes. So holding procedures. So a quick little overview of some of the things we're going to be going over. First off, I'm going to start with your different types of holds. It's going to be both your standard, your non-standard, in addition to some other things. I'm also going to go over what ATC expects of you. This is what you're required to do and just also what sort of what they're going to be expecting you to report. Next thing is your different types of entries. Probably one of the most difficult things for any instrument pilot. Going through their different phases of training is their types of entries for your holds. First off, as I said, first thing we're going over is your different types of holds. Now first off, you're going to have your published holds, which are fairly simple in the sense that you'll be able to go over them prior to your departure. So this means you're going to be able to find them on both your en route charts and your approach charts. So what you want to do is anytime you're planning your route and sort of IFR flight, make sure you go over your different holds so you know where you're going to be, where you might be expected by ATC to hold should they require it of you. Next up, you've got your non-published holds. An example of this we have up here is as you're flying along, there's some traffic in the way or there's a hold up at the airport that you weren't quite expecting. So ATC will give you a non-published hold. It'll sound something like hold west on the 180 radial at Deagle, Deagle being an intersection. Now you can do these non-published holds both at intersections, VORs, really anywhere where you can shoot a different type of radial from anything. So hold west on the 180 radial at Deagle. We'll go over a little later how to actually do that hold. Alright, next up, again, types of holds. Your standard versus your non-standard. Now, these are both important to you because you want to know how you're going to be holding. Essentially, whenever you go into hold, there's going to be a protected side and a non-protected side. And whether you're doing a standard or non-standard hold will tell you which side is protected. Your standard hold is going to be your holds to the right. So you're going to be holding to the right, you're going to be turning to the right. So if they say, for example, hold north on 180 at Deagle, they don't tell you whether you're standard or non-standard, you know you're going to be making right-hand turns. Your non-standard holds will always be verbalized. They'll always tell you, do a non-standard hold at Deagle or Robin or wherever you're going to be holding at. So for your non-standard holds, left. Real simple, non-standard left, standard right. Now they might also tell you which way you're actually going to be turning to alleviate you having to remember which one's standard, which is non-standard. Next, what ATC expects of you. So they told you what to do. Now you acknowledge it, alright, cool, I'm going to do that. So how are you going to do that? Well, or what ATC wants you to tell them when you go in there. So first off, what you're required to tell them, you have three main things. One, the time you enter the hold, the altitude at that hold when you enter it. More than likely, ATC will tell you an altitude they expect, but you still want to tell them, even if you are at that expected altitude, the altitude you enter the hold at. And lastly, the time you leave the hold. If ATC is telling you to enter a hold, it's more than likely because of traffic, because there's a hold up. So they're trying to give you that required IFR spacing for that hold. So you want to make sure when you leave the hold, they know you're leaving it, and you guys are on the same page. What else ATC expects of you? So the big portion of your holds is your speeds. Now, when you're in this hold, the one thing you're shooting for, the number one thing you want is to get that inbound leg. You want a 1 minute hold, or you want a 1 minute inbound leg. What this means is you've got your inbound leg, that's highlighted here, your outbound leg, and then of course your two turns going in and out of it. So your inbound leg is as you're going to the hold. So again, we talked about Deagle earlier. So if you're going to hold on Deagle as you're flying to the hold, that's your inbound leg. Now once you make your first right turn, in this case for a standard hold, make that first right turn and now you're on your outbound leg, that can be as long as it needs to be for you to be able to hit your 1 minute leg. Now the one restriction to this is your speeds. Again, you're probably doing this due to other traffic in the area, and ATC wants you to keep that spacing. So they're going to use your speed to dictate that. Now the required speed limits you have are based off altitude. Again, this is because, as you probably already know, the lower you get in altitude, more than likely the slower the aircraft are going. So at 6,000 feet or below, your maximum speed is 200 knots. Between 6,001 feet to 14,000 feet, your maximum speed is 230 knots. And finally, for 14,000 feet and above, 14,001 feet and above, your 265 is your max. Again, both that altitude and speed you probably won't expect to reach in Cessna 172 during your instrument training, but you never know, maybe you get some good tilting. Alright, next up, you've got your different types of injuries. And again, as I said at the start of this is probably the hardest part for any instrument pilot to grasp. Now, as you're coming into a hold, you've got different sectors based off the area you're headed to that hold for how you're going to enter the hold. Now, the easiest and most preferred is your direct. So, as you're flying to the hold, this is an example of a non-standard hold. So, as you're flying to it, if you're anywhere coming into the hold from any of these angles, you'll be able to fly directly into the hold. If you're coming from this angle down, you're going to have to do what's called a teardrop entry, and we'll go over that in a second for how to actually do that. And from here and below, it's your parallel entry. So, as I said before, first off, you've got your direct entry. So as you're coming into the hold, you're flying essentially directly to where your hold's going to be. Now again, this arrow I drew here, yeah, I made that myself, that's right. The arrow that you have here, you're going directly to. But again, direct hold can be any of these angles that I drew earlier. Now, your next one, you've got your parallel. This is probably the most difficult and the one that most pilots try to avoid. So in this one, you're coming kind of at a downward angle, directly towards your hold, but against the flow of the inbound leg. So what you're going to do is you're going to cross that holding area. You're going to go out about a minute and a half or so to give you that proper spacing. Then you're going to come around, and you want to make sure you're staying on the safe area. Then you come down and intercept that inbound leg. And then from that point, you just keep flying your hold as published as required. Lastly, you've got your teardrop one. And this is when you can't fly direct, this is probably the one that most pilots try to do. So again, you're coming more at an upward angle this time. Once you cross that hold point, you simply just do a slower right-hand turn in this case, or left-hand turn for your non-standard. And you're going to do your turn into it, and again, you're going to intercept that inbound leg and just fly the pattern. So I believe I covered most of the key points for your holding pattern. And let's see, yep, right at 5 minutes. All right, cool. If you have any questions? No? All right, thank you.